Alrighty guys, my name is JabeTime, oh yeah, and today we are here to talk about The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. I've been pretty excited for this release. Usually, when I find new games that I want to play, I don't like looking at the trailers or things like that, but for this, I just had to because there's so much news about some of the mechanics in this game, and the new things that are added to this game, I feel like are going to add so much more to be able to do in this game. It's ridiculous, and you're about to see exactly what I mean. Now, first off, as I had said before in other videos, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild has definitely, well, I guess Legend of Zelda in general holds a very special place in my heart. I've grown up with it. Well, me and my brother would play it all the time, and seeing it grow into what it is today is so dang cool. I mean, back then, even in Ocarina of Time, it was just slashing your sword, blocking, and all that stuff, but now there are pretty much physics being added in to Tears of the Kingdom. There were physics to Breath of the Wild, of course, but those physics were sort of a little jankier. I feel like this game is definitely gonna grab those physics mechanics and like really refine them. For example, let's just go ahead and take a look at the new power called Ultra Hand.
We've made a simplified version of a boat. However, it won't move in its current state, so we'll need something to propel it forward. Okay, they're attached. Alright, let's try moving the boat. Hey, it's moving. It's sailing pretty fast with the wind from the fans.
This is one of the powers that I've heard the most about. As you can see, you can use the environment to your advantage and make boats and other vehicles that I've seen as well. For example, there's this one. Wow. And I'm wondering, like, how much freedom is there to this? Can you really just grab whatever you want? Like, let's just say I wanted to grab just some random old barrel, put them together, and then put a fan on that. Would that work? Would they be able to stick together? How much freedom is there in this? I'm sure we'll get all these questions answered eventually, but as of now, my biggest questions are, how much freedom is there to all of these things that were added? Like, I mean, this car right here, you can see that it's like stuck in with so many different pieces, and I'm just wondering how many of those parts are already built together, and then how many of those parts did it just grab from their environment and put together to make the dang car? But as I've seen before on the internet and memes, as you can see, this does look a lot like Gary's mod. Now, what I do notice as well is that there's a little battery indicator, a little power indicator, and that right there I feel like is going to be the limiting factor to make it so you can't break the game. I'm sure people are going to find ways to be able to break the game anyway, because, I mean, in the first one we had things like this, and also this. Like, some of these skips that people have found are ridiculous, and I'm sure with all of these new properties and physics, it's going to be very interesting to see what people can find, because there are people who will find anything. So the next power that I wanted to talk about that's been added to Link's arsenal is called the Recall. Now, we did see this in the trailer, but I feel like it shows you a little bit more of what you can do with it. I mean, for example, the dang rock fell down and went all the way up. That's pretty cool. It's like a little makeshift elevator. And I'm wondering what else you can really do with this. I mean, we saw a pretty good example in the trailer. I'm guessing the main thing it's going to be used for is to be able to get up to the Sky Islands, but I'm sure it can be used to your advantage as well. Now, another thing I'm wondering is if you were to make a boat or a flying machine, can you use these like recall abilities also on those? Like, could you just be on a flying machine, fall all the way down, use recall, and then just keep on flying afterwards? Like, is that going to be like some sort of exploit? Probably not. But so far, from what I've seen of the powers that Link has now, this game definitely seems like you're going to be able to have much more freedom and also a lot more creativity to be able to make new things. And I'm sure people are going to find so many dang things to be able to exploit the game and its physics. So next up, the next power we got to see was Fuse. Now, Fuse is one of the powers that I'm most excited for and have the most questions about. the way that you can just grab whatever you want, really, and the length of the spear that was made in the gameplay demonstration was ridiculous. That thing had so much reach. Now, what I'm wondering is are these new fused weapons gonna be like the better weapons of the game? Because in the first game, you were able to kill big old enemies and then get their weapons, and then that's how you got like some of the better weapons. But now I'm wondering if fuse is gonna be more of a power for times when you need a weapon and you don't really got much around, or if they're gonna be more of the main weapons used during this game. I guess we'll have to see, but I mean, that spear thing, like I said, it's ridiculous how much reach that thing has. And also, not to mention the arrow with the eye on it. How deep is this gonna go? Is it gonna be every single monster loot be used as a weapon? Because back then, they were able to be used, but that stuff was mostly for potions and other things. Nothing that had to do with combat besides buffs. And now for the last power that we got to see in the gameplay demonstration, Ascend. Now, Ascend to me seems like an ability that is going to help not only get to the Sky Islands, of course, but I feel like it's also just shying away from climbing in general. I mean, we saw that this guy came from the cave all the way to the top, and that is completely skipping out on all that climbing, which I love the climbing in the first one. The climbing was one of the best parts of that game, but at times it was tedious. So I'm just wondering if now they're just trying to fix up the parts that were a little more tedious in the first game. Now that's pretty much most of the main powers that we got to see in the gameplay demonstration. But as AJ Aonuma said, this was simply just a glimpse, a brief look at the game. There's definitely going to be so much more to see in this game, and I am very excited to be playing it. It is going to be a whole new game, but it's almost going to be like a revisit to the first one, and I've been trying to replay the first one, but it's hard to be able to replay a game that you put so many hours to and then having to restart all over again. But now that we have this game, I'll be able to start a whole new adventure, and that makes me super happy to be able to come back to the Breath of the Wild series. I guess my overall thoughts are, it's going to be really cool to see how these mechanics are put in. I have a lot of questions as to how they're going to implement some of the stuff in the first game to this new one. Like, at the end of the first one, you had all of these powers, all the magnet one, the one that stops time, all that stuff. You had all of these powers, and I'm wondering if these are going to be completely taken out, or if they're going to be replaced by something, or if we're going to have all these powers right from the start of the game. It would make sense to have them in like a story wise, like even just the regular old powers that you get from beating the divine beasts. You got some of the powers like Rivali's Gale, but from a game standpoint, I'm not totally sure if it would work out if you were to start off with those powers, because those powers specifically were endgame if you had all four. And I don't know if they really want to put an endgame Link into a new game, if that makes sense. But God of War did it pretty good. Pretty much everything reset, but it still added so many more new things while also keeping some of the old stuff. So I guess we'll have to see how Breath of the Wild does it. Either way, I'm happy to see all the changes in this game, and I'm excited to see how they will be implemented. It's still Breath of the Wild, and I loved Breath of the Wild, so it's going to be a lot of fun to be able to stream this game for all of you. So that pretty much wraps up my thoughts and all that we got to see in the gameplay demonstration. I want to thank you all so much for watching today's video, and I hope to see you in the next one. Goodbye!